Just 3 years ago, the Milwaukee Bucks won the NBA Finals against the Phoenix Suns in 6 games. Past 2 years, past 2 seasons, I should say, they have yet to look like that dominant team that won the title and gave Milwaukee its first championship in a very long time. Is it time to realize that this team isn't a dynasty? They're not a team that's going to be competing year in and year out. They're going to be more sporadic. Or were the last 2 years just a little bit of some rough patches? For the Milwaukee Bucks, the past 2 seasons, in the playoffs, they have lost to the team that would go on to head to the NBA championship. Mind you, both those teams wouldn't win, as in 21-22 season, the Boston Celtics would lose to the Golden State Warriors, and then the Miami Heat would lose to the Denver Nuggets just this past year. So when it comes to the playoffs, they're not losing to the bad teams. They're losing to the best team in their conference. So what's the problem? Let's start with the 21-22 season for the Milwaukee Bucks. They end the season with finishing third in the Eastern Conference. They win their first round matchup against the 6th seed Chicago Bulls easily in 5 games. And then they lose in the conference semifinals to, like I said, the eventual Eastern Conference champions, the Boston Celtics, in 7 games. Now, this would be the season where, unfortunately, in the first round, Chris Middleton would go down with an injury. He would only be playing 2 games against the Chicago Bulls before sustaining that injury. It would not be playing at all in the Boston Celtics series. Now, this is a huge deal for the Milwaukee Bucks. Chris Middleton is their number 2 scorer. He's their number 2 option if Giannis isn't heating up or if he's just getting double-teamed. Chris Middleton's the guy who can stretch the floor. He can shoot any shot possible. He's got the mid-range on lock. He's got the 3-point jumper on lock. He's a very versatile scorer. So losing him is big. Yet, they still win their first-round matchup against the Bulls, and they make it to 7 games against the Boston Celtics. So I think it's safe to say that the 21-22 season for the Milwaukee Bucks was not a failure. They were just unlucky. Their number 2 player goes down with an injury that results in them losing in the second round against the better team in 7 games. Now, you go to last year, and the Bucks finish first in the Eastern Conference. They have one of their best seasons ever as a franchise. They go 58-24. They have one of the best defenses in the league. Giannis has another MVP-type season, averaging 31 points per game on 12 rebounds per game and 6 assists. Drew Holiday has a great season. Chris Middleton is just getting back from his injury. He's having a solid season. Bobby Portis having a great season. Brook Lopez is having a Defensive Player of the Year type season. Everything's just going well for the Milwaukee Bucks. And then, just like the year before, another injury happens. Giannis falls on his back, and he's forced to miss 2 games in that series. When he comes back to play, he doesn't look like he's being very aggressive. He goes down from like a 32-point per game scorer to a 23-point per game scorer. He's just not looking himself at all. He can't be physical on his drives. He's just not Giannis. So you lose practically your best player. Now the real question is should they still have lost? Because they're playing the 8th seed Miami Heat. Who, I mean, if Giannis isn't playing, I mean, he is playing. Giannis is still playing. So if you have Giannis playing, even though he's not at 100%, on paper, you would think that the Milwaukee Bucks should beat the Miami Heat. But you also have to look at the Miami Heat last year. Miami Heat were the 8th seed because their whole team was injured sporadically throughout the season. And they made it to the finals. So, really, they beat all the other good teams in that conference. So, they definitely deserve to be in the finals. And they were the better team. They were just the better team. Yet again, I don't think this season it might be a failure to Bucks fans in their eyes because They should have done better. But I mean, you got to look at Giannis's injury. A back injury is huge. I mean, you're going to be playing it safe while you're on the court. It could affect just how you drive and how you play in every facet. And it's just another unfortunate scenario for the Bucks. So what do the Milwaukee Bucks do at the end of last season? To me, they make a terrible mistake. They fired their head coach Mike Budenholzer, who won them an NBA championship. I think this was totally ill-advised. I guess their reasoning is that they should have won another championship, or they should have at least contended for another championship. But I mean, he has no control over injuries of his two best players in back-to-back years. He brought you the number 1 seed in one year and brought you the 3rd seed in another. Both of those records were better than the year that they won the championship. And now you're going to sign a first-year head coach in Adrian Griffin? I mean, go ahead. He could definitely change some things. I don't know what he's going to change for the better. He's going to be shaking the playoffs, I would guess, as a first-year head coach. But yet again, you never know. I mean, Steve Kerr figured it out right away. Frank Vogel, his first year with the Lakers, they won the chip. So you never know. You never know about Adrian Griffin. I have no thoughts about him. He hasn't done much. He's just been an assistant coach in like a couple places like Toronto. So, but all in all, I just think that was a bad move from the Milwaukee Bucks. I think there was no reason to fire Budenholzer. I mean, he was also having some off-the-court things happening in his life that you have to take into consideration. I mean, if you don't know about that, just look it up. I don't really want to go into that. And he was one of the better coaches in the NBA, and he's proven to be able to win an NBA championship. And he won it when they were down 0-2 in the finals against the Suns. So he's definitely proven. So I just think it was very ill-advised. But we'll get off that. So heading into this year, you got a new coach. The roster is looking very similar. You still have your big three in Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis. You still got Brook Lopez down in the paint. Still got Bobby Portis, Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton. You got Marjon Beauchamp, who I think is going to have a great year this year, especially because I just think he's going to get more minutes. He's going to get more playing time throughout the year. You do lose Javon Carter, who is your number 1 backup point guard. But, I mean, you got Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen can play the point, and then Drew Holiday, if he's in the game, and he can anybody on the team can really play point. Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis, either of them can play point if one of the other 3 is out. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. So you lose Javonte Carter, and you sign Malik Beasley for a 1-year deal. You also bring back Robin Lopez. Robin Lopez, it's an all right signing. I mean, his level of play has definitely gone down throughout the years, but he'll be a solid backup center for his brother Brook. I mean, they're going to have chemistry as well. That's always an added bonus. Jay Crowder, he had a very limited role last year with the Milwaukee Bucks, which made no sense to me because they traded for him. I'm guessing he'll get more minutes. Malik Beasley, I mean, he's averaged like 10 points per game every year in his career. He is one of the most streakiest shooters in the NBA. I know this because he was on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And he was very streaky. One game he would make like 7 threes in a row. The next he would go 0 for 11. His percentages have only gone down throughout the years. So Adding Robin Lopez and Malik Beasley to me aren't huge moves. Malik Beasley could definitely be a better move, in my opinion. I mean, you're just adding more space to the court, another three-point shooter who can knock it down from the perimeter. I mean, that's always an added bonus when you have Giannis clogging the lanes with his drives. Just being able to pass out to a three-point shooter it's always going to be a positive. So when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, can the Milwaukee Bucks be in contention for an NBA championship this year? My answer? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's 3 other teams that are for sure better. I would say the Nuggets are definitely better. I would say the Celtics are definitely better. And I would say that the Suns are definitely better. Other than those 3, I mean, they could be right there at number 4. I mean, you also got the Sixers. That's pretty much it. I mean, maybe the Heat will do a lot better in the regular season. I mean, you always got the Lakers as well. But, I mean, the Lakers aren't even in their conference, so who really cares? They could definitely be in contention. I mean, as long as you have a healthy Giannis, there's no limit to what you can accomplish. It seems like every year he just gets better, even if the stats don't really prove that a whole lot. I mean, last year was his best year, and he didn't even win MVP. He averaged 31, 12, and 6. I mean, his most points per game, one of his most rebounds per game, and he's always in like the 5.7 to 5.9 in assists. His defensive numbers were a little down. But, I mean, you got Drew Holiday and you had Brook Lopez, who had a Defensive Player of the Year season. So, no wonder. I mean, probably the whole team's defensive stats went down because Brook Lopez was in the paint doing business. You got Drew Holiday on the perimeter as well. And not to mention, this will be Chris Middleton's probably his full first healthy season since his injury. I mean, last year he was still getting a grasp of the game coming back from his injury. He didn't really look like the all-star Chris Middleton that we knew from years past. So Chris Middleton could also have a very good comeback season. You bring that offense with your already top 5 NBA defense, the team is going to be very good. Like I said, I think there's like 3 teams that are probably better. But if you have Giannis, who just has an absolutely amazing season, that's all you need to like move up to the number 1 slot. I mean, he just hasn't really done that compared to like Nikola Jokic and the talent of the Suns and the talent of the Celtics. But I mean, Giannis by himself could be a talent worth more than the combined of those other teams. That's how good Giannis can be talent-wise. He just needs to do it, which he can because he does it almost every year. So this team's definitely a title contender. And I've been seeing things like power rankings and stuff that have brought the Milwaukee Bucks down a little bit. They lost in the first round. They're getting a new head coach. All those things are so little. They have basically the same exact squad, but they're going to be more veteran. Giannis is still not 30 years old. He is not going to decline. Maybe Drew Holiday and Brook Lopez will decline a little bit, but they're also not too old. I mean, they got some young guys on their team. They got Grayson Allen. They got Marjon Beauchamp. Like, you're not going to be slacking. And then Malik Beasley is going to bring up that offense as well. Their main problem last year, I would say, was offense. And they didn't have a bad offense. They didn't. So if you just bring the offense up a little bit, there's no telling what they can do. So there you go. In my opinion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but the Milwaukee Bucks, as long as they got Giannis, a healthy Giannis, and his supporting cast around him remains healthy, especially just for the playoffs. I mean, they don't got to be too healthy for the regular season, But you want them to play some games so they're comfortable in the playoffs. But as long as they're healthy for the playoffs, I mean, this team can easily win an NBA championship.